Good fit? We'll check in on their media day shortly. Bradley Beal and Andrew Wiggins have chosen not to get vaccinated. What does that mean for their respective teams? And Kawhi is hoping to return this season? How does that affect things for the Clippers? Plus, Malika Andrews sits down with Kevin Durant. So get your popcorn ready because the jump starts now. Hey, what's up? Welcome to The Jump. I'm George Sedano. Ramona Shelburne and Kendrick Perkins will join me here shortly. But first, here's what LeBron James said at Lakers Media Day today about his vaccination status. Let's take a listen.
Have you been vaccinated, and do you feel compelled to send a message to the rest of the country about the importance of vaccinations?
I think when it comes down, for me, I can speak about myself. I think everyone has their own choice to do what they feel is right for themselves and their family and things of that nature. I know that I was very skeptical about it all, but after doing my research and things of that nature, I felt like it was best suited for not only me but for my family and for my friends, and and that's why I decided to do it. So, but as far as I don't, you guys should know me. Anything that I talk about, I don't talk about other people and what they should do. I speak for me and for my family, and that's what it's about.
All right, so now I'm joined by Ramona and Perk here. So starting with you, Ramona, what's the significance of LeBron saying this publicly?
I actually think, speaking about his own vaccine hesitancy, when he said I was very skeptical at first, but I did what was best for me and my family, I actually think that does more good for helping others who are hesitant than anything somebody who, like when I was able to get the vaccine, I got it the first day. There's no hesitation on my part, right? There's a lot of players who are like, yeah, sure, yeah, let's do it. But when there's a lot of people who are hesitant, and when you hear somebody who speaks about their own experience and how they worked through it and why they did it themselves, I actually think that does more good than somebody who was not hesitant at all.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking on your own experience, especially when it comes down to the vaccine, because I was a guy that was real skeptical. I mean, my wife actually got the vaccine 6 or 7 months before me, before I finally went on here and did what I wanted to do, or thought it was best for myself and my family. And I did my research, but, what took me over the top personally was, when I did the research and saw that, people in the military space were vaccinated, and we talking about guys, people that stand on the front line to make sure that we're able to sleep comfortable at night. I felt like, that this is a safe way to go about it, because one thing we all should know is that we're never, as a country, going to put, the people in the military put them in the wrong type of space as far as the vaccine, or put anything into their bodies when they're over there protecting us. So once I saw that they done it, then I was okay with it. But I think with this situation, you only could speak on it for your personal experience. And I thought LeBron James handled it well, like he always do majority of the time.
Yeah, it's certainly something that's going to be an individual situation, but certainly there are consequences if you don't, and we'll have to see what those consequences are, particularly when it comes to these NBA players who are playing in cities, and we'll talk more about it today as we did yesterday, where there's a mandate from the local governments. So we'll have to discuss that further in just a moment. But let's stick to basketball here. LeBron was asked about Russell Westbrook and his fit on this Lakers roster, and here's what LeBron said about that.
As far as Russ, we need Russ to be Russ. We don't need Russ to change for anybody. That's why we got him. And it's our job to all help him feel comfortable in our system. And he's going to be as dynamic as he's always been. So I look forward to that.
All right, Perk. How does Brody fit on this Lakers roster?
Well, look, George, it's not how he fits, but it's what he's going to get, what he's trying to get accomplished. And right now, Russell Westbrook, when you think about his move to the Los Angeles Lakers to team up with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, to be honest with you, nothing else matters but a championship. It's championship or bust for Russell Westbrook. And he has an opportunity right now to change a lot of narratives about himself that people have been saying about him over the last few years, where he is not a starting point guard on a championship caliber team. He didn't win with Kevin Durant. He didn't win with Paul George. He didn't work with James Harden. Things to that nature. Now, when you look at Russell Westbrook, a guy, in my opinion, who's a top 10 point guard of all time already, if he wins a championship and he completes the mission of winning a championship, that moves him into the conversation of a top 5 point guard of all time. But make no mistake about it, it's only one goal for him, and that's to win the championship. It's championship or bust, especially when it comes down to Russell Westbrook, along with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Perk, I got a question for you. When do you think the last time Russell Westbrook has had a legitimate chance to win a championship? Like, what team was he on that you would have said they're a real contender?
It was with, when they blew the 3-1 lead, to the Golden State Warriors when he was in Oklahoma with Kevin Durant.
That's a long time ago. That's a long time ago, right? And I think that's the main point with Russ is that that's 3-1 lead with Kevin Durant. I mean, Kevin's on 2 teams from now. I mean, that was a long. He was on the Warriors. He won 2 titles there. Now he's on Brooklyn. That was a long time ago that Russell Westbrook's had a real chance to win. And I think for the past, ever since that, I don't think he's had that in his head. Like, yeah, of course he wants to win. He's going to try to win on every team he had. But I covered a lot of those playoff series in Oklahoma when he was the last guy there, and it was just Russ against everybody. And even in Houston, I don't think they were thought of as contenders. They were thought of as, they had a chance if things break the right way, but were they ever favored? And I don't know, at the end of his career here, where he still has enough athleticism and physicality to be on a championship team where he has a realistic chance to win, I'm excited to see what he does in this system and with these players.
Well, look, and again, I've talked about this ad nauseum here on this show, but just there's always new listeners or new viewers. So LeBron played with Dwayne Wade. I'm not saying that Dwayne Wade and Russell Westbrook are the exact replica of each other, but they have some similarities. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Now, the big difference was Dwayne Wade, and I was there in Miami covering this team at that time. Dwayne Wade came to LeBron on some vacation in the Bahamas and said, if we're going to win, it's got to be you making sure the ball is in your hands, okay? And you're making those decisions, and I will play off of you. And I think that LeBron learned from that experience. And I think he's trying to replicate some of that perhaps here with Russ. But Russ has to be willing to play that Dwayne Wade role some here. And again, I think that for LeBron to add to his legacy, Perk, you talked about the narratives with Westbrook. So if LeBron is able to be the guy to get Russ that championship and Russ gets to still be some semblance of Russ, I think that only helps LeBron's legacy as well.
I agree, George, but I think now it's time for LeBron James to switch roles. Just like Dwayne Wade took a backseat to LeBron, I think it's time for LeBron to take a backseat to Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. See, I'm looking at Russell Westbrook right now, and although he did play with me, and I get this, right, but he's never had a big like Anthony Davis. And that's the thing that I want to shine the light on. Like when you think about a pick and roll or a pick and pop situation with Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, please, somebody tell me, how can you stop it? How can you stop it? It's just, you're talking about the most athletic point guard to ever play the damn game of basketball. You look at Anthony Davis, one of the most skilled power forwards to ever touch the basketball. Those two guys are the pieces. I think right now LeBron, not saying that he's going to defer being a third option. It's going to be some nights where, he's going to look like the first option guy. But I think he has to take that D-Wade role of Miami and let Russ and AD do their thing, which Braun has already showed us all that he's capable of doing, because the year that they won it, what he said, we're going to go through Anthony Davis.
Yeah, well, that'll be fascinating to see, and certainly LeBron is more than capable of doing anything he wants on a basketball floor. I love how you said that you played with Russ and, he played with a big man like me. I like how you snuck that in there, Perk. Anyway, speaking of LeBron James, he spoke to our Lakers reporter, Dave McMenamin, today. Let's take a listen.
You guys had a mini camp in Las Vegas. What was the initial messaging from you as a leader, knowing that there's 11 new faces, but everyone knows with the goal in mind is to hang on these banners?
The initial conversation was basically, we're here, let's get some great work in, but let's just try to come together. Let's build some chemistry in a few days that we're here. Let's build some camaraderie, but this is the start of the process. This is the start of, putting in the work every single day, put some of the things that we want to do next week, but, come together, become a brotherhood, but it starts now.
Last year, could have been an MVP season for you had health gone your way. Where's your ankle out now, and what were you able to accomplish with a lengthier offseason than you've had in a couple of years?
I'm back to 100% as far as my ankle. I feel great, heading into camp. And I look forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first day of training camp, and I'm super excited. I'm super excited to get back on the floor and know the work that I've put in, with my body and my game, and I'll translate it to the court.
What type of foundation were you guys able to lay down together that first workout you had in the middle of August out in L.A.?
The one thing that we all saw is the guys came in shape. Guys came in the best shape that you can be in without playing in NBA games, but guys came in ready to work, no one, was coming in, just saying, oh, well, we can use this opportunity to work ourselves into it. No, we got right into what we want to do. And, and that's just the first step, though. And we want to continue to build off of that. But it's going to be a long process. It's going to be a long season. And we look forward to everything, that's going to happen throughout the season.
And Rob Pelinka says maybe you're in different shape. Lean muscle, I hear you've added. It's trimmed down. What's going on with LeBron James heading into year 19?
No, this is a guy that's very determined. A guy that's willing to do whatever it takes for his body to be in the best shape possible to go out and to dominate at a high level. That's always been my goal. Put myself in a position where I'm available to my teammates, because that's most important. That's number one for me, to be available to my teammates. But it's putting in the work. I'm not afraid to get uncomfortable with anything to help me, be in the best possible shape I could be in. So look forward to it.
And last one, the body doesn't work without the mind. You've been striving to be the best for a long time now. What keeps you in that mindset? What do you do to keep the edge up when you could say, look what I've already accomplished?
I have an opportunity to continue to inspire a lot of people with my drive, my work ethic, with my commitment to who I am both on and off the floor. And I got 3 kids at home that look up to me as well, for not only the things that I do on the floor, but more importantly for what I do inside the household. So that's all part of my motivation. And I still have a burning desire inside of me to want to continue to win and host Larry O'Brien trophies at the end of the season. That is my goal. That's always been my goal, but the process I love the process more than anything, and hopefully I put myself in a position where I can do that at the end of the season.
All right, more to come on the Lakers in a little bit, but coming up, with Ben Simmons looking to be traded, what do the Sixers want for him? Our own Ramona Shelburne is going to hang out with us and tell us next. But first, it's time for our distant replay from this date in 2018, featuring Ben Simmons.
Coming up with a turnover. A great end.
Oh, come on.
Look at that. Oh, what a play by Simmons.
That's like a horse shot right there.
Yeah. That's something you see at like Rucker Park, maybe at an All-Star game.
He was going for his own dunk, but then passed it at the end there too. That's what's great.
With Kendrick Perkins and Worldwide Momo. Ooh. And that was Giannis at Media Day talking about not being satisfied, obviously, after winning an NBA championship. It's been a little over 2 months since Giannis and the Bucks won the title, but for some reason, no one is talking about their chances to repeat here. So Giannis says he still wants that chip on his shoulder, and he doesn't care about trophies necessarily, but he wants to get better and win. So, Perk, I'll start with you. Are people sleeping on the Bucks?
Yes, I do believe people are sleeping on the Bucks, and rightfully so, right, because of the Lakers and Nets. But I would not disrespect the defending champions. And when we look at Giannis, a guy who's the most dominant player in the NBA, and he has 2 counterpartners in Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, who are all still in their prime. One thing about it is that anything can happen. And once you've been through the war, once you're battle tested and you know what it takes, the highs and lows, they have the experience now. They know what it takes. And right now, I wouldn't count the Bucks out. They're not my pick, but I would not just count them out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they repeat.
Man, that is exactly what you want to hear Giannis say if you're the Bucks, that he's not satisfied, he can still get better, because he's right. He's 26. That's usually when players are entering their prime, and this man already has 2 MVPs and a Finals MVP. I mean, he can still get better. He can work on his back-to-the-basket game. He can work on his free throw shooting. And he's so good. George, he is going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar this year for most points scored as a Buck. Ooh, this year, probably April or so. I mean, and he's 26. He's just now entering his prime.
But I think that's the move. I think that barring some unforeseen circumstance from someone on the roster that I don't envision, because the rest of those guys are very good to great, certainly. But he is all-time great, and he still can elevate his game, so they can continue to be in that mix if he continues to ascend, as he points out that he says he wants to. So moving on from Milwaukee to Philadelphia, where Ben Simmons and the Sixers drama is getting spicy. Simmons officially no-showed at Sixers Media Day, and according to Sam Amick of The Athletic, Ben Simmons believes playing with Joel Embiid has, quote, run its course. So, Ramona, take us behind the curtain here. How do you see this saga playing out with the Sixers and Ben?
Well, we're gonna get some information probably the end of this week, because that's when his first check is due. So they have to decide, are they going to fine him? We probably won't hear about that because they'll be private, but they'll decide if they're going to pay him, right? And that's when the first check is due. So that will escalate from there. But the Sixers are looking at this as, right now, teams are trading or making offers and discussing offers that are where Ben is probably at his all-time lowest value, okay? And most of the offers are essentially draft picks, expiring contracts, maybe a good middle-of-the-range player. But the way they see it is they have a 5-10% chance to win this year with the roster with Ben Simmons on it, okay? And Daryl Morey's an analytics guy. He looks at chance to win. So they don't want to trade him for any package that does not send back a player that keeps them at that same chance to win going forward. And right now, the offers they're seeing are more draft picks, expirings, where the idea is make the first trade, get those draft picks and expirings, then wait till the middle of the year when a disgruntled superstar or a team is disappointing. Let's say Zach LaVine, Dame Lillard, Bradley Beal, something like that.
So you think
what the rest of the league is.
You think that's possible?
That is
you think
the way
that
you
they
have
make
to think
an initial deal for what people would assume is undervalue, right?
Well, the Sixers would rather not do that.
Right.
Okay, that's what all the people who are pitching them now are trying to get them to do. Okay, but the Sixers would rather make just one deal. Why make one deal to get a bunch of draft picks and expirings to use in a second deal to get a star later? You don't know if a star is going to be available later. You don't know if a great player is going to be available later. You know Ben Simmons is a superstar. You know Ben Simmons is an all-star. And they really believe Ben Simmons can still be that player. Now, I talked to somebody close to Ben the other day, and they said, what is the purpose of him showing up at this point with all that has happened in this offseason? If Ben even shows up, let's say it's a month from now, 2 months from now, he has no intention of ever doing that. But let's say we get to that point. What Ben Simmons are you going to get at this point? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like, is he going to be the same guy that he was for you the past few years? Is he going to be the all-star Ben Simmons? Not where his head is at right now.
Well, see, it's so much to unravel right now. And I'm just thinking about, the way that Ben is handling things. And if I'm a team that's trading for Ben, honestly, I'm sitting up here thinking to myself, hey, I don't know what will happen if we get him over here and things doesn't go his way or he underperforms or anything to that nature. Now, I know a lot went on as far as the press conferences with Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid, and Ben has said that he has had bigger problems with the organization just before last season, but he also signed on the dotted line. But I'm here to tell the world right now, look, Philadelphia, and I've been saying this for weeks, the front office and the ownership are not trading Ben Simmons for just anything. Mm-hmm. They want an all-NBA caliber player or MVP caliber player for Ben Simmons. And right now, from what I understand, the ownership group is willing to hold out and be stubborn and say, okay, cool, we'll wait until the perfect opportunity presents itself for the betterment of our organization. Because the way that they're thinking is, how are you going to, they're thinking like this, Ben Simmons, you played bad, and you want us now to go out there and you want us to take the hit. They're not doing it. So until they get a player that they think could come in and help them win right away, an MVP, all-NBA player, I think Ben Simmons is going to sit, and he's still going to be part of the 76er organization.
By the way, Perk, Ben Simmons is willing to sit as long as it takes too. I mean, when you talk to people close to Ben, I say, okay, worst case scenario, it takes all year. Would he sit all year? And the answer right now is yes. Now, you could say that right now at the beginning of training camp. You can say that you're willing to sit all year if that's what it takes to go get traded to a team that you feel more comfortable on. But let's see what happens when you really start missing checks, when you really start missing basketball, when the league moves on without you.
But George and Ramona, but I knew it was, and I said this last week, I knew it was going to get to this point, right? Where it was going to be that one ownership group or owners of an organization that's saying, you know what? No, we're not going to budge. We're not going to move to the beat of your drum. And I think this is what's about to happen with the 76ers. Now, Ben is not moving. He's obviously made it public. He said he's willing to sit out the whole year, which he probably miss out on a lot of money. But here's the part on the money standpoint. It's a new generation where, you know, guys are getting so much money that they're comfortable. That bank account is full. So as stupid as it may sound to me or the rest of the world, guys missing out on X amount of dollars, to them, they like, I'm set. I could afford to lose money this year and set out and make a statement. So now you're just looking at two parties that are being very stubborn right now. And really, it's not just Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, and Doc Rivers. This is coming from the very, very top.
All right, fair enough. It'll be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. All right, we got to take a quick break. But coming up, the Lakers loaded up this offseason. But who needs to sacrifice the most for this team to succeed? We'll talk about it next, right here on The Jump. What sense did you get from LeBron on his mindset here entering year 19?
George, I think he's really energized. You think about it, this is his longest offseason that he's had in a couple years. And he told me that he was 100% healthy after that high ankle sprain really sabotaged last season for him and the Lakers. He was able to get back in the gym. I asked him about his initial workout with Russell Westbrook this summer, and he said from that very first time we got into the gym together, we could tell both of us our fitness levels at like an all-time high, and that meant that they were already ready to begin this thing back in August. So come October, you feel like they'll have not just their wind and their determination, but they'll also have the familiarity where the Lakers could make some noise again in this league.
Dave, AD was injured last season, obviously, and Frank Vogel's talked about how he looks like he's in great shape. What kind of shape do you see him in, and is there any pressure on him entering this year?
Yeah, I actually got a chance to talk to AD one-on-one, and after we finished our interview and he was walking away, we had acknowledgement, like, you know, this season's all on you. Like, it goes as far as you go. And he kind of laughed and shrugged his shoulders. He's like, I guess so. I'm like, well, if you're bubble AD, no problem. He goes, okay, well, I'll have to go back to the bubble braids. And so, obviously, that player, that Anthony Davis who played in Orlando, was arguably a top 5 player in the league. And some of his teammates on the Lakers were saying, I don't know who's better, LeBron or Anthony Davis. Last year, after a shortened offseason and after a bunch of injuries, he was not that player. And all of the pieces that they brought in, Russell Westbrook, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, and the like, none of them will be able to have the impact they're potentially able to bring unless Anthony Davis plays like that all-world player that we've seen in the past.
Now, with all those players on the roster, the future Hall of Famers, Rob Pelinka talked about it recently as well, about, you know, being unselfish and the sacrifice. And look, LeBron, of all players on this roster, understands that, having played on some big threes in the past with a lot of Hall of Famers. Do you get the sense they're ready to make the necessary sacrifices as a collective to win a title?
Well, they're all saying it, George. I asked Carmelo about that same sentiment because there are 11 new players on this team. So on the one hand, yeah, Vegas has them as one of a couple teams as the championship favorites, along with the Nets and the Bucks. On the other hand, there's only 3 returning players. Have that much roster turnover and expect to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy 9 months from now seems like a tall task. But at the same time, Carmelo told me the same thing. LeBron told me the same thing. Anthony Davis told me it comes down to mindset and sacrifice. And they're at least saying it right now. They'll have to put it into practice as these games start popping up on the schedule.
Dave, you're the man, brother. Thanks for joining us.
All right, you got it.
All right, there he is, Dave McMenamin. I want to bring Ramona and Perk back into the conversation. The Lakers have had a lot of accomplished veterans here that they've added to this particular roster. So, Perk, I'll start with you. You know better than anyone how much the Lakers will have to sacrifice to succeed. What do you make of it?
I mean, look, sacrificing for the Lakers is going to be easy. We're not talking about a group of young guys. We're talking about a group of guys who's already paid, who has accomplished everything that they needed to accomplish individually. A lot of guys on veteran minimums. And I guarantee you that they had these conversations before these guys were signed that, hey, you may not play certain nights, or this is going to be your role. And they know this. When you have guys of that age and they come together, they know the one goal is a championship. I was on a veteran team with Paul, Ray, KG. All of those guys had to come together to sacrifice because they know that they had to get a championship to really put them in a different, atmosphere, stratosphere for as their career. And then when you add a guy like Dwight Howard who knows what it takes, Rondo, Carmelo Anthony, all those guys know. So these conversations already been had. So now when we look back and say, oh, LeBron had a pre-training camp before training camp in Vegas, it was because of the camaraderie. See, what people need to realize is that when you're trying to win a championship, it starts the first day or even before, the first week before training camp. You want to start developing habits on and off the court, great chemistry, and that's what the Lakers are going to do. And look, it's going to be easy. I don't want to keep hearing about all these different changes and all this. We're dealing with 37 to 40-year-old men that's eligible in 5 years for their pension and their 401k.
AARP cards. Perk, who picked up that tab in Vegas, though, at dinner when they were out there practicing?
I don't know. I know it wasn't Braun. It wasn't. He's so cheap, it's ridiculous.
Probably AD, right? He's been paying for his own. He paid for the wedding. Everybody ate there. Look, I was driving in here this morning, and I heard Dwight Howard on the radio doing his interview, and it was almost, George, like last year didn't happen. I know they have a lot of new players, but the core group of that championship team, and it feels like it's back. It was like Dwight's back, Rondo's back, Braun's back, AD's back. And if you close your eyes and you just pretend 2021 didn't happen, it was a bad year for the Lakers. And this year feels a lot like the 2020 year where they won, where Bron had got knocked. He didn't make the playoffs. He was injured the year before. He went and filmed Space Jam. He was in the gym every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. I feel like we're just reliving the 2020 year, and 21 didn't happen. And
I believe the Lakers have a ton of talent on this roster. And when you give LeBron James that kind of rest, we saw what happened the last time. Championship is what ensued after that. But Dave is right. It's on AD. Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt about that. All right, let's get to some controversial comments from Media Day yesterday. Warriors forward Andrew Wiggins and Wizards guard Bradley Beal made their resistance to the COVID-19 vaccine known. Here's what each of them had to say yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I'll say something when I'm ready. The only thing the media has done is kind of make it bigger than it has to be. So, like I said, I'll say my side of everything when I'm ready. I don't work on y'all's time. I work on my time, In
terms of bigger than it has to be, I mean, you stand to lose a lot of money.
And it's my problem, not yours.
Okay.
Every player, every person in this world is going to make their own decision for themselves. I would like an explanation to, people with vaccines. Why are they still getting COVID? If that's something that we are supposed to highly be protected from. It's funny that, it reduces your chances of going to the hospital. It doesn't eliminate anybody from getting COVID, right? So is everybody in here vaxxed? I would assume, right? So you all can still get COVID, right?
As for the issue of vaccine mandates and why they aren't happening around the league, NBA spokesperson Mike Bass said in a statement Tuesday, quote, a vaccine mandate for NBA players would need an agreement with the Players Association. The NBA has made these proposals, but the Players Union has rejected any vaccination requirement, quote, end quote. Ramona, what is your reaction to the comments from Beal and Wiggins, given that there won't be any vaccine mandate from the league?
Well, I think my reaction doesn't matter. It's more of his teammates and the people he's around every day because they're in close contact. And, Baxter Holmes had a good story the other day saying a lot of staffers who are on teams where there's not 100% vaccination are leery of working with players, or they're uncomfortable working with unvaccinated players. And look, if I go cover a game, I'm going to have a mask on. Most of those people around them will as well. But if you heard what Steph Curry said, where he just said, it's not ideal. Steph Curry was asked about what it means for the Warriors if Andrew Wiggins is not allowed to play home games. And he said it's not ideal. So it's really up to the people around you. How do your teammates feel about it? How do you feel about how they feel about it? And I think that's what's going to essentially be the pivot point here of whether or not these people, the players that are unvaccinated, eventually take the shot or don't.
Well, you know what? Here's the problem that I have, right? And to each his own. But, being in the NBA fraternity and the brotherhood, if Bradley Beal and Andrew Wiggins, if they have concerns about the vaccine, hey, just go back and watch Karl Anthony Towns and watch every time he did an interview and watch him talk about the COVID situation and watch how he talk about how he missed his mother every single day, God rest her soul, and how he almost lost his father as well due to COVID and what he's had to deal with and why he went and got vaccinated. And if you could go back and you could go watch everything that Karl Anthony Towns went through and everything that Karl Anthony Towns shared with not only the NBA world, but with the world and how he had to fight to get through this trying time, and then you can't figure out whether or not you want to get vaccinated, then you just have closed ears and you don't have an open mind.
Well said, Perk. We'll move on. Coming up, Malika Andrews sat down with Kevin Durant to discuss the playoff loss to the Bucks, expectations for this upcoming season, and more. Stick around. You're watching The Jump.